Dude, Shark Week!
Starts Sunday, July 25th.
Shark Week! It's actually Shark Month if you're watching Nat Geo. Looks like Aquaman's going to be hosting Shark Week, Jason Momoa. That should be cool. That dude's funny. That dude is, he's something else, man. That was funny. Mike Tyson had a really good one year. I think Chris Hemsworth did it. They're always a lot of fun, but I will say this. Watched something last night. Nat Geo kicked off Shark Month. I know of a dude who told the story. He was attacked by a great white in California, and I did not know that this phenomenon was so widespread. But apparently on Nat Geo yesterday, they had a whole special of it with like animals protecting human beings from shark attacks. And the one that I knew of was dolphins, but apparently there was even a marine biologist who was protected from a tiger shark by a whale, which is an enormous humpback whale, enormous creature that could accidentally drown you and kill you. And yet this thing gracefully kept this woman away from the jaws of a tiger shark. It's just incredible. I'll tell you though, the story I heard, this surfer dude, Todd, he's been on like shows before. I forgot what stuff he's been on, but I know he's been on like those, I Was Prey maybe or something like that, show like that. And he got blasted like air jaws style on his board. A massive great white. If it wasn't for the board being in between him and the torso, that first bite would have just right in half. But he got hit like air jaws up like they do with the seals, turned upside down and bang, all whatever tonnage on top of him that the great white could muster. And dolphins, he credits with saving his life. Dolphins, they came, started circling him and slapping the water around him and smacking the shark with their tails and ramming him. And the shark did come back and take part of his leg, but he wasn't comfortable being around all those dolphins. So it gave the dolphins bought him time to catch a wave and get in that he otherwise would not have caught. Listen, every year with Shark Week, they try to one-up themselves, and I really pray every year there's no catastrophe in the making before they, of course, all that stuff's filmed before, but, you know, what's happening is you have, like, sightings of people who's in, like, this one guy is an underwater cinematographer. He's got no experience with sharks before, but he was in Hawaii, and he saw a deep blue, which is the largest recorded great white. She's a massive female, usually around Guadalupe Islands off of Mexico. And he just like, you know, they encourage you. Oh, she's so docile. Let's go swimming. One year, God forbid, I just remember what happened to Steve Irwin, who I loved. I thought he was great. All the work he did on conservation was incredible. I just fear that they're we need to respect these creatures like they're no joke. And I know some people are getting more brazen each year, but, you know, not everyone's Andy Casagrande, man. You're not going to be in tune with how the shark feels. Pectoral fins down, you're in deep shit. Pectoral fins up, they're a little bit light, you know, but not everybody knows that. And like this guy sees deep blue. Oh, look, it's a massive great white. It's got to be the biggest one on the earth. Let me photograph it and get in there with her. I mean, she could eat me whole. Deep blue could eat me whole, right? She's like 22 feet. The thing is huge. That's like Jaws size, like literally. We're going to need a bigger boat. Quinn goes down, slides in. Not good. Not good. By the way, Peter Bentley, the author of Jaws, spent the rest of his life dedicated to shark conservation and was appalled by the amount of violence against these creatures that he kicked off with fear. He believes fear. You know who really is a danger to sharks, which we don't really hear that much. Well, you do if you watch these things, but you know, the average like hunter or fisherman out there does nothing compared to the damage that these like Asian markets do with shark fin soup. All right. That's a threat. And the poaching that happens anyway, no matter what. So I can't wait. Can't wait to check it out. Let's do a quick update. Last I checked, we were just under 1,400. We have 1,382 responses to the primary poll preference. What state would you like to see polled? Let's see where we're at now. We're over 1,400 now, and I will show you the responses. If you haven't voted yet, vote. All right, that's what it's for. The only thing we ask of you is gender and race and age. But other than that, where did you see the poll on what social media platform? It's obviously not a scientific poll. This is a social media experiment. I just want to know what my followers and local supporters and members, I want to know if there's a difference between what people on locals want to see polled or people on Twitter. And let's go over a little bit of that right now. Is there a difference between men and women? Is there a difference between white and black people who follow me? Are there a difference between Asians and, yada, yada? What about younger? All right. So this is actually 10% younger. It was when I looked at it last. It was about 10% 18 to 29. The vast category was 45 to 64. All right. So we're at 1,407 completions, total completions. What social media site or video platform referred you to this survey? Because it is running on YouTube. As you can see, there are some that got it on YouTube, some that got it on Rumble. I will put it in the link right now. If you have not gotten a chance to check it out, let me grab it for you and send it out to you. And then this way I will refresh it and see if there's any difference so far. But YouTube, it is coming your way as soon as it loads up. There we go. I'm not going to personally. I just killed my own ability to take it, but that's all right. I don't care. It's not for me. YouTube, if you have not taken it yet. Yes, happy Independence Day to everyone. All right. And I just saw somebody's question about Bannon and Rasmussen. I mean, they poll a lot. They have a lot of content. When I get something, I put it out there. Usually the War Room is one of the first ones that, one of the first people to ask us and invite us to come back on and talk about it. So we just don't, obviously, we don't get out there as much as Rasmussen does because they're a daily tracking poll for public stuff. We poll all the time, but it's not always public. All right, Rumble, you just got it. Getter, I know you had it on Getter the other day, but here I'll put it in the comment section again. It'll only let you take it once, guys. There are multiple ways we prevent that. I don't care if you share it with friends. If they're not using the same cookie or IP, it's not going to block them. So you can share it with friends as well. And I'll refresh it in a second here just to see. But as you can see, roughly Twitter is, I have the biggest following I have is on Twitter. So that's not really a surprise to me. So almost 700 responses so far alone came from Twitter, 49.2%. Locals was the second biggest. Locals, we can do much better than that. I'm not usually for public disclosure of numbers, but we have quite the locals community. There's a difference between members and paid supporters, but every member on locals can take it. It's not a premium post. We aren't even at like 10% the size of the locals community. It's this. I don't want, like I said, I don't want to get into specifics, but our locals community is, I think, one of the biggest out there. It's a lot bigger than that. So we can do better than that, guys. All right. Don't forget to make sure you remind everybody to take it. Getter, 15% came from Getter, 211. Truth, 170 came from Truth. Rumble, only 19. Facebook, 6. YouTube, 6. I barely. That's from sharing on Facebook because I don't believe. I put it on there because I knew people would share on those sites. So we're up a little bit now. And you can see actually locals just came with a little bump. Good job, locals. Good job. Oh, I didn't even put it in your thing. You took it on Truth? Yep. It'll only let you take it once too. Or it will only record it. But what happened? Boston City Councilor Kendra Lara crashes into house with unrestrained son while driving unlicensed in unregistered car belonging to a man she made a sex tape with. Oh my God. I don't know what to tell you guys. The circus is in the Congress. That's a short phrase for the crazies are in charge. I mean, it's not just the Congress, of course, but let me re-up it again. Let me see if we got anybody new. Whew! See, I'm going to let it roll a little bit because as you can see, it's still bringing in new responses. So that's great. All right. So actually Twitter came down from the original. Locals keeps ticking back up a little bit more for Getter. That's great. Let's see where we're at. I honestly think, obviously Iowa has quite the lead, but you should still take the survey and do whatever you want because we could have 3,000 tomorrow and the results could be quite different. All right. So Nevada is in second, which I thought to be funny. We don't know yet whether Iowa, it's supposed to be a primary. Look, the governor, the old ex-governor, the former governor signed the law. They changed it to a primary state instead of a caucus state. That will benefit Donald Trump He won in a crowded field. He won about just under a majority of Hispanics that participated in the Nevada caucuses in 2016. His popularity with Hispanics has gone up quite a bit in that state since, and I imagine changing it from a caucus to a primary contest, that would mean higher Hispanic participation, and that would be very good for Donald Trump. There have been people, the DeSantis campaign and others, who think they are going to do well in the state of Nevada. I'll tell you right now, I don't see it. I mean, you can't win a state like that if you're getting killed with non-whites, because it will be more non-white than a lot of these other early states. And you're losing whites anyway, losing conservatives. Like, I don't know where the hell anybody thinks they're going in that state. That's going to be a very difficult state to beat Donald Trump in. Iowa, 23.6%. I bet you it's changed since we just did that. Let's see. An interesting, no, 23.5 with Nevada, 13.2 still. Florida, 11.3. Texas, 11. California, 10.4. New Hampshire, 8.7. That's a little bit surprising to me. Virginia on March 5th as well. Super Tuesday, 8.6. North Carolina, 6.9, which is now crept in front of South Carolina at 6.5. I got to tell you, I'm wondering if whether or not you guys just pretty much think that it all rides on Iowa, that South Carolina is going to Trump, New Hampshire's going to Trump. We've seen this movie before. Florida, I feel like, is an interesting state to poll because at this point, it's going to be DeSantis' last stand. You cannot lose your own state and continue in a presidential primary. Considering it's on March 19th, it will, if this continues to bear out as we see this bearing out and as it is now, it will be coming off the heels about 2 weeks before, and not about 2 weeks before, a major Super Tuesday for Donald Trump, which is, and for those of you who don't remember, on March 5th, Super Tuesday will be Alaska. We don't have much polling from there, but all through the South where Trump is very strong. Alabama, Arkansas, even in California, Trump is above 50% now. By the way, I am now hearing from multiple people that I must have stepped in it, like I said a couple of weeks ago when I brought up the effort for DeSantis allies to try to change rules at the convention or in certain states. It does appear on September 29th. California GOP, allies of Kevin McCarthy, Jessica Patterson, people that support others that support Ron DeSantis. There will be a vote in the convention on the 29th if they get their way to remove the winner take all rule. All right. So California is a winner take most, but there's a 20% threshold, and that even gets canceled out if a candidate wins 50+% of the vote. If they win a majority, I'll read it to you. If a candidate earns a majority of the vote statewide, both congressional and at-large delegates are awarded on a winner-take-all basis. If no candidate receives a majority of the statewide vote, then delegates are awarded proportionally. A 20% threshold for the statewide vote is required to qualify for delegates. All right, so right now, the polls show that Trump would take every single delegate, 169, because he's over 50 and he would win. DeSantis and others are struggling to even hit the 20% threshold. Under this new change, if they get this, if they do this, and I got to be honest, some of the people that know about this and have heard about this that are Trump supporters are acting pretty nonchalant about it. Let me explain this to you. It is possible Trump beats DeSantis. Let's just say it's DeSantis because he's in second place. 51-21, and the rest don't even qualify. And yet DeSantis gets about half the delegates that Donald Trump gets, even though he gets his ass kicked by 30 points. That's how this will work if they get this rule change. I kid you not. They are terrified Trump's going to go into Super Tuesday and sweep it all because Texas is also winner take most, also on March 5th. And also Trump is polling at or near 60 in that state. And that would most certainly kick in. Listen, I'll just read it. Delegates, 162. They're all bound, including 114 district delegates, 3 per district, and 48 at-large statewide delegates. Majority district leads receive all 3 delegates. So if he gets a majority in every, district, he will take every district delegate. If a candidate leads with a plurality and more than one meets the 20% threshold, the leader is given 2 delegates and second place receives 1. Now, and I got to pull this up there, If no candidate meets the 20% threshold, then the top 3 vote getters each get a delegate. If the winning candidate earns a majority of the votes statewide, they earn all 48 at-large delegates. If no candidate receives a statewide majority, delegates are awarded proportionately to all candidates meeting the 20% threshold using the rounding rules, which is previously explained in other states. When you're at 60%, actually, when you're closing in at like 53 to 55, you have a real chance of taking every single district. If you're at 60% statewide, you are likely, almost certainly ahead in every single congressional district, probably within a majority, because you're going to have certain districts you're probably going to win 70-30 or 70-20. Others you'll win 55-35, maybe, But for the most part, it is a nightmare situation that never Trumpers and Trump opponents, that he goes into March 5th and he just cleans up. Massachusetts, he has a 45-point lead in the state of Massachusetts. That's another delegate-rich state of the night. So is Tennessee, where he is way ahead. Again, Alabama, Arkansas, we just went over California. There's not been much polling in Colorado, but it's younger. And Colorado and MAGA is younger and less white. So Colorado may not be a very good state. We don't know. We have to get polling, but it may not be a very good state for Donald Trump. For never Trump. Maine, Trump has a massive lead. Massive. Minnesota is right for him. North Carolina is Trump country. Ted Budd beat the hell out of Pat McCrory simply because he just had the Trump endorsement. And that's the only thing you read in an ad. Oklahoma, I've said before with Governor Stitt, it is some endorsing DeSantis. It is a state, because of the way the crazy rules go, it is a state where they can get kind of competitive, as is Utah. Even the last poll in Utah showed Trump taking a lead by like 1 or 2 points. It was very, very small. Virginia, there was just a poll out last week, I believe. Trump's lead in Virginia was like 35 points. It's big. So all these delegate-rich states, 2 of the biggest, being the biggest, third is Florida and New York, and third and fourth is Florida and New York, respectively. So this would be a nightmare for never Trump. It could be over on March 5th. So I strongly suspect that everyone is picking Iowa, because if DeSantis does not make some magic in Iowa, then it doesn't mean anything. It's over. I mean, somebody from his campaign told Politico last week, if we don't win Iowa, it's over. There's nowhere else we think we can go. There's Nevada, but he's going to get, if he loses Iowa, the momentum going into New Hampshire, we're going to get crushed. And then we're already down in South Carolina. There's no chance we make a move if we lose Iowa. So then it's just going to be South Carolina into getting our ass kicked in Nevada. And then, we move into Super Tuesday or it's really Nevada is going to come first. And then we move into Super Tuesday after South Carolina, and it's the guillotine. It's over. So I think that a lot of people are picking Iowa because they know that's to be the case. So Iowa would be a small state, it would be interesting. What's going on with Rumble over there? It's not working. Refreshing doesn't help. Something may have happened. You can go on here. I'll give you Getter. Getter's easy. You guys can go on Getter. I don't know. I'm not there. I can't see what's going on. Sometimes, once in a while, I'll tell you, I love Rumble, but it has happened to me before where we go live and Rumble's down. It's got a 500 error and it doesn't connect when we go. Here's Getter. You don't have to go to CommuTube. I get it. Oh, that's not it. That's the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Hold on 2 seconds. I don't know why that happened. There we go. Here's Getter, guys. Use Getter. All right, it's easy, super easy, decent quality. All right, so that's where we're at. Is there any different? You're telling me Locals isn't working either? Oh, I see what you're saying. If you clicked on it already, and it's going to pick it up that you're returning. I don't know if I gave you guys a save and continue option. If I didn't, I'm sorry about that. By the way, there's going to be some new feature on Locals where you can privately DM me. Right now, there's the local support thing, and I answer you guys know I answer basically all of you. If it's something I can answer, I don't think I've ever not answered anyone eventually, but they have this new like live chat, direct message kind of thing, and I have enabled it or going to enable it. It did work. So Jeffrey, you used it on an iPad. You clicked on it through locals. Yeah, you know. And Ellie says, I picked Iowa to get a real gauge on the polling. I'm 100% certain the Ron's campaign plus the GOP, the RNC will cheat. I'll tell you what they're doing. They are using donor money to buy, and there's nothing wrong with getting paid people on the ground, but that's not really what county GOPs in Iowa are accusing them of. What they're accusing them of is using PAC money to buy supporters, and that they're spreading it around. I'm not sure. I've talked to people about it. I'm not sure there's anything illegal about it, but it's never been done before, and it does smack as filthy. All right. PAC money was never intended to be used like that. Although certainly Democrats I have seen use some PAC money, like the third party organizations, and obviously their money, to supplant cheap paid volunteers or cheap paid knockers and, vote harvesters, and even supplant volunteers. So let's give me 2 seconds and we'll check and see if there's a difference between different groups. Not a fan of soda, but I do like ginger ale once in a while. Soda's just not good for you. It's just not. Social media. Let's go with locals first and see what there is with the difference with people on locals here. They still picked Iowa, 28.2. Nevada came in second with them as well, but a little bit more. That's interesting. Let's check out Twitter. Also Iowa, but a little bit less. And Nevada, second again. Last night, Asian and some other minority groups, they picked Florida. I think that probably dissipated over the night. But Getter, we'll try Getter. Much closer. Only 18% for Iowa, 14% for Florida, 13% for Nevada, 13% for Texas, and I'm rounding California 12. Let's check out. Look, Facebook was so little. I mean, we can look at it, but it was like what, 8? Remember? And it was 6. Ha! 1 for each on the board. That's pretty funny. YouTube. Very interesting. If there was more, it would probably be more spread out, but 35% picked Iowa, 24% picked Florida. I do think Florida is worth it. I do. Let's check by gender. Men. 24.6% for Iowa, 14% for Nevada. What about you ladies? Let's see. Iowa. And then Texas was your number 2, ladies. That's right. Age, I wonder by race. Much different by race. Probably not. We'll see, though. That's why we do this. Just want to see if somebody's like, grossly underrepresented. Of course, it's going to be much wider. It's not a shock. 22.8, Iowa. Nevada, 13.7. What about African Americans? Black voters? Iowa, 43.8. Nevada also number 2. That's because it's so early this time. Hispanics. Iowa, 32.7, 20.4 for Florida. That's not a surprise to me, actually. And California, 16.3. Yeah, it's where they have a greater say. Iowa's very, very, very white. Asians or other, while Florida really took a dive, it just stopped. It's only 48 responses, but it started out almost unilaterally Florida last night. And then Virginia even surpassed it with Iowa. Look, it looks like it's going to be Iowa, although you all should take it. Take it. Things can change. And, we'll just have to see. Corn versus the Gators. Corn versus the Gators, Knox. That's right. A 500 error, Byron, is when the server is down. And it's possible if there was an issue with locals and Rumble, it's actually possible it was StreamYard didn't have the. It says it's through, though. It says it's working. You're live on Getter. You're live on Locals. It says you're live on Rumble. It's not showing me any issue here. So that's weird. I don't know. Let me just see something. And then we'll move on to the cocaine controversy. Whoa, that was loud. Yeah, that's odd. It's live on Locals, I'm hearing. The Buckeye fan, just go to Getter, or you can even go to Locals. You don't have to be a subscriber to watch it on Locals. Here, I'll give it to you guys in Rumble as well. That's weird. I don't know why the hell that happened. But if it's just Rumble, then something tells me it's Rumble. I want to read this story to you guys because they're like making such a big deal out of this and then lying. And that makes me, when they're like lying or telling you they don't want you to know something, then that makes me more suspicious, all right, than it did before. Let's listen to this real quick.
We have a result on the demo. We have a yellow bar stating cocaine hydrochloride. Pass number 53-21-4.
All right, so listen. This cocaine hydrochloride thing, like it's some kind of different form of cocaine. Illicit drugs are made typically in the hydrochloride form. Why? Because they're salts. When you get a prescription drug, you look at Vicodin, for instance, it says hydrocodone, right? It's a different alkaloid that's extracted from the poppy, and then morphine, which is separate. And same thing is true of oxycodone. And they're usually named after the different salts. The process of turning it into a salt in some form, whether that's a what's the other one that they use quite a bit? Sulfuric, I think a sulfur salt or something. But in this case, the hydrochloride is the final process to turn it into a form where your body can ingest it. That's why, not to give everybody a drug lesson real quick, but the base of an illicit drug or a pharmaceutical is the non-salt version. It's why people who are crackheads smoke crack. They don't snort crack or ingest it. You can die from ingesting crack because it's a base form, and the way that your body deals with it for you to get the effects is when it's a base has to be inhaled or smoked, whereas a salt can be ingested. Sulfate, thank you, T. Oliver. I could thank you. It's a sulfate. That's right. So either they're a hydrochloric salt form or a sulfate. All right. So they're using these weird forms, and they're talking about how I'm just going to read it, and when I read it, I'll address it. But it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a bag of cocaine. Okay. Hazmat situation at White House leads to discovery of a bag of cocaine they want you to believe is something else. Brittany Sheehan. On Sunday, the White House grounds were evacuated after an initially unidentified item was found. The United States Secret Service spokesman confirmed the event, saying U.S. Secret Service uniformed division officers located an unknown item on the White House complex. As a precaution, the White House grounds were evacuated, and the D.C. Fire Department hazmat team responded. A hazmat team responded to the area of 18th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, and the Secret Service blocked roadways around the White House. All roads have reopened since, according to the spokesman. D.C. emergency medical officials later deemed the item to be non-hazardous. Cocaine is pretty hazardous. The substance is reported to be cocaine hydrochloride. All right, so emergency respondents were photographed behind the gates near the West Wing of the White House. Moving on. A radio clip from the DC Fire Hazmat reporting the testing result as cocaine hydrochloride was published on the internet. That's what I just played you. What they're going to do when they see a substance they believe is suspected to be cocaine, they will do this very simple chemical test. If it turns blue, it's positive for cocaine. Some media outlets and social media users have informed audiences that cocaine hydrochloride is a local anesthetic agent used by doctors in nasal mucous membranes prior to surgery, which is true to FDA-approved products. Nombrino and Goprelto are nasal sprays in liquid form. However, folks, come on. All right, you're right. Since the reports coming from the White House don't seem to indicate a lot of nasal spray was found, before prepared into a solution, the substance comes in its solid form, and under those circumstances, cocaine hydrochloride is the technical name for cocaine. That's so funny, Brittany. You must be from the street, Brittany, because you didn't buy this bullshit for a second. In less formal settings, this may be called a bag of coke. Even if the medical product story didn't have the glaring issue that powdered cocaine doesn't actually have FDA approval, the legal drugs available on the market are rarely used. The Drug Enforcement Administration published a fact sheet in 2020 stating that the FDA-approved drugs are less effective than other products on the market and rarely used. That's exactly right. Here it is right here. Which drugs cause similar effects? Other stimulants, such as amphetamine and methamphetamine, cause effects similar to cocaine that vary mainly in degree. What is its legal status in the United States? Cocaine is a Schedule II drug under the Controlled Substances Act, meaning it has a high potential for abuse and has an accepted medical use for treatment in the United States. Cocaine hydrochloride solution, 4% and 10%, is used primarily as a topical local anesthetic for the upper respiratory tract. It also is used to reduce bleeding on the mucous membranes in the mouth, throat, and nasal cavities. However, more effective products have been developed for these purposes, and cocaine is now rarely used medically in the United States. However, more effective products have been developed for these purposes, and cocaine is now rarely used medically in the United States. Lovebug on Twitter says, cocaine hydrochloride? You mean cocaine? Laughing my ass off. Exactly. I mean, this is unbelievable wordplay, folks. I mean, unbelievable. And it says here, cocaine, a natural alkaloid, is derived from coca leaves of the coca plant, which is native to countries in South America. That's exactly right. I was trying to tell you before, saying is true, the process of poppy. I don't want to get into, this illicit drug 101 making here, but the alkaloids are extracted from the plant and through, what can be a rather crude chemical process. You extract and purify those alkaloids from the raw, in the case of the poppy, it's opium. It's like white at first, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, there's a name I'm looking for to describe how it feels, but at first it comes out white like a milk. That's why in ancient times they'd say milk of the poppy. But as you leave it in the open air and it's in oxygen for a while, will begin to turn brown, and that's what most people scrape off the pod is the opium putty. So same thing's true of cocaine. It's just done differently. They stomp on the leaves, they extract the alkaloids out in that solution, and then they purify it later. The throwing this like hydrochloride is hilarious. I mean, this is just unbelievable. All it means is that it is in coke form. That's it. Prior to the discovery of definitely cocaine and not nasal spray, authorities were searching for a suspect related to an early morning improvised explosive incident damaging three businesses, in the northeastern part of the city with Molotov cocktail type devices, as previously reported. It's possible, folks, you may just be coked up running around throwing Molotov cocktails. I just don't understand why they were hiding this the way they were hiding it. A series of explosive devices and a Molotov cocktail style object detonated outside three Northeast Washington, D.C. businesses early Sunday morning, causing no deaths or injuries, but leaving the city on edge. There was some damage to the buildings with broken windows and debris. The suspect has not been caught as of this writing, and the police are asking for assistance. These events have not been reported to be related at this time, while both raise concerns and leave unanswered questions in our nation's capital. Investigations continue into the origin of the package. I'd like to hear your thoughts about this. I mean, this is like, I just don't understand why they would do this. It would be nice if folks, because I see a lot of your, yes, it oxidizes the milk of the poppy, Jonathan. Yes, it oxidizes, turns brown. I'm wondering why, and I'm looking at a lot of your comments. Why are they doing, like, where exactly was this found? Where was this bag of coke found? I mean, exactly. Do you really think that if Donald Trump was still president right now and a bag of coke was found on the White House grounds, they wouldn't want to know exactly where the hell that bag was found? It is very easy to think of some coked out idiot tossing the bag, getting sketched out of his mind or her mind. And like, oh my God, I can't walk in there with this 8-ball, whoop, throwing it on the floor. I can see that 100%. Or if Brittany's right and these events are connected, maybe they threw the bag, which could be later to discover have some kind of residue on it, and the drugs were just in the bag and they threw it and didn't realize they just tossed their white privilege 8-ball. Right, exactly, Rich. I mean, it's possible. But I mean, how could we not know by now where exactly this bag of coke was found? Did the Bidens throw it out a window? Come on. And the only thing somebody said, cocaine is too fancy for Hunter. He's a freebase kind of guy. I mean, look, I want to know for two reasons. And you know this, guys. I've been real open and overly. I can't stand it when Republicans like mix the corruption and addiction issue. I can't stand. It's just like they're two very totally different things. However, this guy got away with a gun charge that would put any black or brown person away in jail for at least 5 years. Hell, I'm going to jail. I'm white as sin. I'm going to jail if I did what Hunter Biden did on a federal form, that gun charge. A bag of coke like this, you could do some real time for that. Like the bottom line is they've lost, in my mind, they have lost the benefit of the doubt. We will probably never know, Neil. You're absolutely right. Probably will never know. But they've lost the benefit of the doubt. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a staffer or something. I don't know. All I know is that this guy, this family, this administration, in some ways is getting better treatment from the press than Barack Obama. And yeah, they'll turn on him, when it comes to some of the stuff we saw it in the last couple White House press conferences. I mean, I get it. But how could you not immediately ask that question and have it answered? A Trump White House would have had to provide in great detail every detail about how these events unfolded. Come on. This is getting a little ridiculous now. I mean, am I wrong? This is crazy. All right, let's see. Next thing on the list, because I know we don't have a whole huge amount of time here, but over the weekend, there was a controversy over the size of Donald Trump's crowd. We're going to do this again. We're really going to do this. We're really going back to this now. Oh no. It brings me no joy to see Steve being quoted like this in Politico. It's not even way behind. You didn't listen to me, Steve. You did not listen to me. You did not listen to me. I told you were going to end up here. Runaway front runner. This isn't even an uphill battle. We're way behind. No shit, Sherlock. Gotta be kidding me. Anyway, they feel like they don't feel like they are every day struggling to figure out how to pull some kind of oxygen out of the room, some kind of attention to separate or differentiate themselves from the front runner. And they're just killing themselves. They're just killing themselves every time they try. Latest being the pride thing. Listen, I have been to evangelical churches all over the heartland, all over the South. While I would think it's fair to say that most Christian conservative evangelicals obviously don't support gay marriage. They don't approve of it. But they also don't judge. It's like they're very much now in the modern era, very much not during the Bush era, by the way, but in the modern era, very much a live and let live crowd. The problem is when you come for their children. The problem is when you do public displays of debauchery, things that otherwise are on the books as crime, like lewd and lascivious behavior. And you not only put that in front of everyone's eyes without their approval, things that they don't even want to see heterosexual people doing, but then you put it in front of their children. There's a difference between that and living and let living. In case people haven't been looking, I just don't know who gives these people this advice. I'm telling you, I don't think it is Jeff Rowe. Jeff Rowe's been around a long time. You can see how Jeff Rowe runs a campaign. I don't think this is being run by Jeff Rowe. I think there are surrogates and influencers, along with his wife, who are really running this campaign into the ground. I don't think Jeff Rowe would ever say, that's a great idea. Let's put that out there under the Super PAC War Room. Let's bash gay people. Let's hate on Pride Month. Let's get the gay Republicans pissed off. Let's single-handedly lose the 3 Rust Belt states in a single night. I don't think he would do it. I think this is a campaign that's off the rails. They're struggling to figure out who to listen to, who's got the direction. And I got to tell you, Jeff Rowe, Axiom, they're not all over the place like this typically. They may get a message, they sink their teeth into it, maybe the wrong message. But they're not just all over the place, pissing off different groups every day. Did Glenn Youngkin do that? Did Laxalt even do that? Did Schmidt in Missouri do that? Did Ken Paxton in Texas do that? Do you ever see Rose, look, he's been wrong, but have you ever seen him move in these gyrations like this? I haven't. So anyway, on Saturday and Sunday, it was, let's call Trump and his supporters liars. Let's call the local police chief liars. The crowd wasn't this big. The crowd was huge. I knew people personally who were there. It was huge. I got my first text message, I think, was at 8:30 in the morning saying, look at the size of this crowd. There's hundreds of people waiting before the sun came up. The crowd only has, the town only has about 4,000 people in it. Obviously, these people were coming from all over South Carolina. It was a massive crowd. The police even put out a public statement, which I tweeted. The police are lying? Yeah, they got caught. Yeah, I think Rich is right in the comments in YouTube. He says the DeSantis camp just got busted cropping the DeSantis crowd, saying it was huge. I saw something, heard something like that too. Oh, see, I'm even wrong. 3,400 people. I think I haven't gotten a chance to look at that myself, but I've heard that. I also was told by people who were at the Moms for Liberty event in Philadelphia that they were totally gaslighting how many people were even there for his speech. He didn't even have a full room. There were seats missing. So, and that's fine. But then don't get your info, because that's going to happen. The guy's a bit of a phenomenon, and crowd sizes don't always matter. They don't. But don't get into a fight with a guy is like a modern phenomenon. Even larger crowds than Barack Obama routinely had. Obama had some big ass crowds, but he drew them at certain events. He didn't always have these crowds. And by the way, 50,000, 55,000 people, that's one thing. I actually personally think that the Philadelphia visit to Pat Stakes was even way more damning for the Never Trump crowd. It was an anecdote of what I've been seeing in the poll for months and months and months now that I've been telling you about. That is not a crowd that would come out to see Mitt Romney or Ron DeSantis for that matter. It's not a crowd that even would come out to see George W. Bush shortly after 9/11. It's different, and it's all right to acknowledge it's different. But they're struggling to get a foothold. And I'm going to use this and then dovetail into something else, because Elon sent me an article on Newsweek, which I think is important. And now I'm seeing what I'm seeing with Politico. This is just not good. So they're struggling to figure out who they are, what their identity is. I don't know if you saw on Fox News when she asked, what's her, Shannon? Was it Shannon? I always forget their names, asked him, are you getting frustrated by how you're doing in the polls? And next, it's because we do peer-to-peer texting. They know that. That's why that ad's there. Peer-to-peer texting is a way to poll people or advertise. It's a way to do a lot of stuff, but reach cell phones, you do peer-to-peer, P2P, it's called. They know that, so they're hitting me with an ad for peer-to-peer texting. It's scary shit, isn't it? Trump draws massive crowd of at least 50,000 in small South Carolina town of 3,400. The event in Pickens was Trump's second large rally of the 2024 campaign. The first was in Waco, Texas in March. And I'll tell you, I'll just be open with you guys. Anytime I'm talking to like Trump World and they ask me that, I tell them that actually the rally, of course, is a signature thing, but the personal, intimate moments like you saw at Pat's, the McDonald's in East Palestine, the pizza place, and with the Cubanos in Miami, that stuff is campaign gold. You see him in a light that you don't normally see him. And all candidates want to be seen in that light. Relatable. Empathetic. Everyday dude. Even though, obviously, he's got a different lifestyle than most everyday people. He's relatable, though. Former President Donald Trump packed the house at his South Carolina rally on Saturday, drawing a massive crowd that was significantly larger than the population of the town which hosted it. You have to remember, why is this such a big deal anyway? Because there are two South Carolina hometown people in this race. There's a sitting senator, Tim Scott, and there's a former governor. Now, the current governor supports Donald Trump. Two people will be gone from this race on February 24th, even before Super Tuesday, if they don't put in a strong performance. Yeah, I'll tell you, Rich, they booed when Lindsey Graham took the stage. They booed. It was something. If Trump just crushes everybody in South Carolina, Tim Scott and Nikki Haley are done. They're out. Never to be seen from again, except for Tim Scott, who will still keep his seat in the Senate, obviously. Believe me, Wall Street can't afford to lose him. Ask him. He's up there all the time with him. Tim Scott spends more time on Wall Street talking to the big donors, talking to the Wells Fargo people, talking to the Goldman people, and the rest of those kind of fat cats. He spends more time talking to them than he does talking to the people of South Carolina. One person told me that there's a revolving door for Tim Scott over there at their firm. A revolving door. He's been so good with us, addressing our needs. That's funny. He hasn't been addressing the needs of South Carolinians. That's why he is where he is in the polls, right? I mean, it's an objective statement. It's not an opinion. If Tim Scott was addressing the needs of the people of South Carolina who elected him, then he would be drawing 50,000 people. He's got a fantastic personality. He's super likable. He's dynamic and articulate. So what's missing? Representation. That's what's missing. People feeling like you give a shit about them. That's what's missing. That you care about their concerns for their family and themselves and their future, and the future of their nation. That's what's missing. Beach is Pickens police chief. His name's Randall Beach. He said, he told the Associated Press, he released a statement for everybody. And they're still going on and on. All I did was, I'm not even going to bring up that friggin' guy, that troll influencer I can't stand anymore. All I did, I didn't even address him by name. All I did was put Pickens' statement up. Pickens' police chief's statement up. That's all I did. Take it up with him. Is he lying? Police Chief Beach is lying for Trump? He's putting his whole reputation on the line to lie about Trump's crowd size? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Beach told the Associated Press on Sunday that authorities were unable to calculate the exact number, but he estimated the rally was attended by, quote, somewhere between 50 to 55,000 people. South Carolina's first in the South presidential primary makes it popular among GOP hopefuls, many of whom have already held events in the state. None of the other candidates in the race, however, drew an audience like Trump, who continues to dominate in 2024 polls. And right there's a highlight for their latest poll. Trump's lead grows following indictment. One factor continues to be thorn in Biden's side with voters. Yeah, he's old and corrupt. Not one factor. That's the problem Biden has going into this election. And anyone who's attached to his administration is going to have the same problem. The Make America Great Again Inc. PAC said in a statement that no other candidate can match the enthusiasm seen in Pickens because no one else has, quote, delivered for the American people, unquote, in the ways that Trump has. Quote, the Supreme Court decisions ending racist college admissions, protecting religious liberty, and stopping an illegal student loan forgiveness scheme was a reminder of how President Trump kept the promises he made to voters, CEO Taylor Budowich said in a statement. Mind you, the tens of thousands of patriots that turned out in Pickens, South Carolina, did it on a day with temperatures over 90 degrees. It was hot as hell. The Trump train has left the station, and it is not stopping until President Trump is seated behind the Resolute desk. Saturday's event marked a return to the large-scale rallies of his previous presidential campaigns, and his appearance effectively shuttered Pickens' quintessential southern downtown area. There's nothing else I'd rather be to kick off the 4th of July weekend than right here on Main Street, with thousands of hardworking South Carolina patriots who believe in God, family, and country, Trump said Saturday. Look at that. The tens of thousands who attended Saturday's rally, which attendees began lining up for the night before, seemed to agree with the president's sentiments. Greg Presley and his wife Robin said they drove more than 3 hours from their home in Tennessee to see Trump, a candidate they supported since his first White House bid in 2016. Donald Trump's the best president in history, Greg said. I love his policies. I love the man. I'm here to support him getting back to where he needs to be to begin with. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy have all held events in the states. The two South Carolinians in the race, former Governor Nikki Haley and Tim Scott, have campaigned there as well. Listen, Tim Scott's in real trouble and so is Mike Pence. Both of them, I think Tim Scott will probably make it. But this debate is turning out to be, I tweeted an article from Politico. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read it. This debate is turning out to be a joke in August, the Fox News debate. Trump is the front runner. He may not even show up. Ron DeSantis said, I'm not coming if he doesn't come. And so many of these others. So I told you last week, I've been pushing this for the last couple of weeks, 2 weeks. There are no top tier candidates and middle tier candidates and bottom tier candidates. There is only one top tier candidate, and the rest are bottom feeders waiting for the top tier guy to get taken out by lawfare. In South Carolina, Haley, Scott, and DeSantis are polling generally within the margin of error, right there, of each other. DeSantis will make will be able to make all the other prerequisites for being able to get to the debate stage, but Mike Pence may not. Vivek Ramaswamy, he made it. You need 40,000 donors in 40,000 unique donors in 20 different states, and there are minimums for each of those states. Pence is not even there yet. He did an event the other day. He raised about $200,000. Folks, I just went to Texas, and I kid you, I think the candidate raised like a fifth of that in a congressional race, not a presidency. DeSantis has the backing of the big donors. He's got plenty of money, but he won't sign the pledge. He won't deal with the RNC has now this pledge, the loyalty pledge. You must pledge that you will support the eventual nominee. He said he would not do that. Trump said, well, up yours, then I'm not going to do it. And that just went on and on from there. Truth be told, we should abolish the debate. There should be open format, almost like a town hall style, a candidate, the candidates with a microphone, and the people who decide to show up, randomized selection of people's comments, and the people will decide what candidates get the most time because they're most interested in them. They can give them a chance to win over the crowd with a single question. And then maybe somebody who had a question for another candidate will change their mind and ask that. Nobody cares what the moderator has to say. Nobody cares how Chris Wallace and all these other flunkies are going to steer the conversation the way they want it. No one wants to hear Brett Baer go, raise your hand if you're not going to support the nominee. Nobody gives a rat's ass about these debates anymore like that. The way the format is set up now are to the benefit of big media and their advertisers, big donors and their party bitches, and not for the candidates and their voters. It's high time that this entire process is overhauled, because I will agree with Larry Elder on one thing. It is totally rigged. If you don't have universal name ID like Donald Trump, or you're not a friend of the big donors like Ron DeSantis, you're not going to get in. And they decide what polls qualify. So Vivek, who just got put in third place in the Fox poll, may not even make it. And Chris Christie's struggling to get there too, although his campaign has expressed that he feels like he's going to be able to do it. Shelley Fox of Spartanburg also said she has supported Trump 616, said she didn't feel it necessary to even think about any other candidates for the next year's election. I'd write him in, she said. When asked if she would consider another hopeful, no question, I'd write him in. See, these people have been bitching and trolling for months. I told you, you remove this man from the ballot, you're going to get killed, and he's going to get millions, folks, millions of write-in votes. He just won some friggin' office in Washington as a write-in, some like local fire chief station or something. I kid you not. And it wasn't particularly close. Senator Lindsey Graham and Marjorie Taylor Greene also spoke at the event. I think we all get where we're going here, but they don't know where to go. They don't know where they're at. They don't know like what attack should I throw? What should I land anything? Should I not land anything? Ewan Palmer wrote something in Newsweek I want to go over real quick. DeSantis' campaign is imploding. Ron DeSantis' campaign is imploding. All right? I don't want you guys to be dealing with the ads, so if it comes on, I'll get rid of it. Having previously been touted as the GOP's next presidential hopeful, can I kill this, please? Nobody cares. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' White House bid has been floundering for the past few months, with even Republican figures casting doubt on the future of his campaign. In late 2022, DeSantis was seen as the ready-made replacement for Donald Trump to lead the Republican Party at the 2024 election. The former president was widely blamed, including by those in the party, for the party's poor performance in the midterm, and continues to face prosecution in a string of criminal investigations. Right, but you know what happened? That widely blaming him thing just became a campaign slogan for Ron DeSantis. And then like actually smart people wrote articles on Real Clear Politics and other places, and even NBC News, explaining Trump had absolutely nothing to do with it, paying criminals or scam artists $100,000 to knock on 40,000 doors while they go to Caesar's Palace and gamble your money away and pretend they're in like West Vegas or something. That's what lost them the election. Their shitty data operation lost them the elections. However, DeSantis has failed to take advantage of Trump getting indicted in both the New York falsifying business records case and special counsel Jack Smith's classified documents investigation, where the former president has denied 37 charges respectfully. DeSantis has not made any traction in the GOP primary polls, while also seeing his favorability rating plummet. Again, did inside the numbers not tell you exactly how this was going to play out? There would be people who would write the man in. DeSantis' negatives are going to go to the moon. He's going to commit career suicide. We're now 2 months, 3 months almost into this, and I told you exactly how this was going to go. No need for modesty here. Not with the amount of shit I take on a daily basis from these people. You would think I sold my soul to Mephistopheles to have the ability to predict the future like this. The truth be told, my 13-year-old son could have told you how this was going to go. And by the way, 37 charges with like another 30 coming out of the sedition Jack Smith's going to charge him with. That's more than a criminal head of a mob family gets hit with an RICO indictment. That's how ludicrous this is. And Americans see it. Go look at the Quinnipiac poll. In Pennsylvania, almost 60% of voters in Pennsylvania said it's political BS. Just 35.9% of Americans hold a favorable view of DeSantis compared to 45.2% who say they have an unfavorable view of him, according to 5 Turd Fakes national average tracker. Although experts point out the campaign is still early in its stages. Actually, even any real expert would tell you that he has been defined. We are no longer in the stage of Ron DeSantis being positive somewhat with a whole slew, maybe a third even of the vote, not knowing who he is. The more they got to know him, the more they disliked him. A big chunk of that is coming from Trumpers who can't stand him now, from Republicans who cannot stand him. He has killed himself with his own base. DeSantis' unfavorable rating among potential voters has been steadily rising since late March, and you don't get that back. Former presidents get image makeovers. It may take a while depending on the president, but they will. Even George W. Bush left office, 20-something% approval rating, now has a positive favorability rating in Gallup, or did last time I saw, and it was a couple of years ago, but it was an image retool. It is very, very, very uncommon. And by the way, Trump's rebound is historically fast. It is very uncommon for a current politician to redo their image. I'll give you one modern example, and I can't find any others. Rick Scott. Rick Scott, as the governor of Florida, the giant killer himself, would win re-elections in all these elections with grossly negative ratings, whether it was approval or favorability. Then Hurricane Irma comes, and he completely changes his image, especially with Hispanic voters. They saw him as a leader. He got the state prepared for the biggest hurricane they had seen in modern memory. People were afraid. He prepped the state, and they dodged a bullet. We all dodged a bullet. The damage was not as bad. Thank God people had as much as they needed. They had ample time. If they needed to evacuate, they had most of them. Of course, there's always issues, but they had the evacuations did well. And he was rewarded for it. People saw him as a strong leader, and his image turned around. He went on to beat Bill Nelson, a 3-term, once very popular, bipartisan popularity, 3-term senator, a veteran, a space hero. Any other examples? Good luck. His rating, by the way, his unfavorable rating has steadily been rising. That includes time after he confirmed his bid in May in an Airstone Twitter Space online announcement. It also arrives. I don't know what that means. I know what she's trying to say, that Ewan's trying to say. I just don't like the wording. It happens at a time when the Florida governor, who signed several anti-LGBTQ laws during his tenure, was criticized by a Republican group for a presidential campaign advert as being homophobic. Advertised. Newsweek contacted DeSantis' office for comment via email. It didn't happen. No response. The DeSantis War Room team released an advertisement on Friday, the last day of Pride Month. It criticized Trump for comments he made in support of the LGBTQ community in the wake of the 2016 mass shootings at the gay nightclub Pulse in Orlando, Florida, which left 49 people dead, and other supportive comments made by the former president. That was widely viewed to be Caitlyn Jenner, will call it a new low. Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner. Almost everyone that I talked to completely agreed with Jenner, especially if you were around for that. What really happened is a Hillary Clinton supporter's son, who was an Islamic extremist, gunned down a bunch of obviously gay people at the Pulse nightclub in 2016, and it was horrific. Trump was, that's talking to Charlie Kirk and one of the people who work for him about this. Trump was the first Republican nominee in modern memory to be tolerant and open to that community. Now, there's a difference between being all right with someone's lifestyle choice and drawing a line with what we're seeing in the transgender movement now. And this is what I have told you many times. Gay Republicans that I personally know, even people in my family, they want nothing to do with this movement. There's a difference between being, somebody who's just gay, and then these people who are not able to identify what sex they were born with, and then wanting us all to have to suffer under their delusion, if not under threat of violence, then under threat of government persecution. And the advertisement they released threw everybody in the same basket. Again, good luck winning the state of Michigan with that. Good luck winning the state of Pennsylvania with that. Good luck. Instead of saying the polls must be wrong, there's something wrong with how much young support he has, maybe you should wonder why Trump's support with young people is so much stronger than DeSantis's and everyone else's. George W. Bush's coalition is dead. Dead. The video then highlights the numerous anti-transgender bills DeSantis has signed into law in recent months, including those banning gender-affirming care for children. Except, can we be real here? The anti-LGBTQ agenda that he put in Florida was undone by judges. Nothing had staying power. Nothing. The ad also shows headlines that describes DeSantis' bills as draconian and dangerous. There are then clips of infamous fictional characters such as Patrick Bateman, the serial killing main character played by Christian Bale in the 2000 American Psycho movie, which had been adapted from Bret Easton Ellis's controversial 1991 novel. Great movie, by the way. I like dark stuff. I thought Christian Bale was phenomenal as Patrick Bateman. Log Cabin Republicans, the largest GOP organization representing LGBTQ plus individuals, accused the advertisement in a series of tweets of being divisive and desperate, which will alienate swing state and younger voters. Oh, there's no question. I mean, you're literally, because everything is riding on Iowa, which is, you guys know it too. That's why you picked it. You're trying to beat him in Iowa at the expense of ever having the ability to win a general election. Conservatives understand that we need to protect our kids, preserve women's sports, safeguard women's spaces, and strengthen parental rights. But Ron DeSantis' extreme rhetoric has just ventured into homophobic territory, the group tweeted. Guys, the Log Cabin Republicans are not exactly like super liberal. I mean, I don't know. It's been many, many, many years since that group followed me on Twitter, and I followed them back. And I had exchanges. I see their activity. I mean, are they Ted Cruz conservative? No, but they're not exactly, like liberals in disguise. DeSantis' rhetoric will lose hard-fought gains in critical races across the nation. This old playbook has been tried in the past and has failed repeatedly. Mitt Romney. Ron DeSantis and his team can't tell the difference between common sense gays and the radical left gays. He, sadly, sees them all the same. His naive policy positions are dangerous and politically stupid, the group added. Christina Pushaw is the rapid response director for the 2024 presidential campaign of DeSantis. She tweeted Friday night, opposing the federal recognition of Pride Month isn't homophobic. We wouldn't support a month to celebrate straight people for sexual orientation either. It's unnecessary, divisive pandering. Yeah, sure, that makes sense 100%. And I would agree with it. I think most people would, except that's not what the advertisement was about. The advertisement put everyone in the same basket in an effort to try to make it look like that Donald Trump supports transgender people grooming your children and abusing them. That's what it did. And when Caitlyn Jenner attempted, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, the Olympic gold medal winning decathlete, transitioned to a new identity in 50. I'm sorry, but I can't. Even if I'm personally, agree with someone's choices, I don't agree with them. I still can't. I'm not going to go along with that. I'm just not. Anyway, Jenner's in that advertisement. And in a tweet, Jenner wrote DeSantis said, quote, hit a new low with the campaign. But he's so desperate, he'll do anything to get ahead. That's been the theme of his campaign. You can't win a general, let alone 2028, by going after people that are integral parts of the conservative movement. Jenner is one of, and for people who don't know this, I did not. I saw the back and forth between Jenna Ellis and Jenner a couple of weeks ago, and I started to get into it thinking, like, what the hell has Jenna Ellis done to prevent this kind of grooming and damage to children? The answer is nothing. Jenner has been hugely outspoken. I didn't honestly know that. I mean, why would you think that, right? Anyway, the backlash to the ad arrived as DeSantis continues to trail Trump by double digits in GOP primary polls, even with the president's former legal difficulties. They're going to go into all these different polls. The bottom line is they bring up the interview I showed you not last week, the week before, but in late June, former Maryland Republican Governor Larry Hogan and said DeSantis' campaign is, quote, one of the worst I've seen so far, and he's dropped like a rock. I think it's getting close to being over, Hogan told Weekly Podcast The Takeout. Trump said that the polls were crashing so bad they're headed to hell, I believe, right? Something like that. The Lincoln Project, who cares what they have to think? But they said Ron DeSantis is the worst candidate I've ever seen. They're just upset that he's not able to do what everyone was hoping. The sanctimonious campaign is dead, Trump wrote on June 29th. His polls are dropping like a rock, heading to hell, and the DOJ, FBI are continuing their illegal and outrageous weaponization against me only because I am leading Biden by so much. Oh, it was Martha McCowan who asked DeSantis about it. Here it is. Asked if he was frustrated by his poll numbers, and he said, our mission is very simple. We're going to defeat Biden. Well, you can't do that unless you get through a primary, and what you're doing to get through a primary is making it impossible to beat Biden. We're going to get all this stuff done for the American. This stuff, folks. Stuff, okay? Stuff. No more excuses. Republicans need to win elections again. And it's like the parrot, The parrot. Like it's still November 2022 or something. No more excuses. Republicans need to win elections again. Well, there's not an excuse as to why Republicans underperformed. It's real. And sticking your head in the sand and pretending that you winning a governor's election and a midterm is somehow going to translate into national success is while you ignore and call these very real institutional and structural disadvantages that the Republican Party has, while you call them excuses, that's asinine. And issues from the border to crime, the economy, blah 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 blah. So with that in mind, where is the debate one? I wanted to bring up the debate one, but okay. Let's go to the Politico article because it piggybacks right off of this. And instead of seeing texting, you guys are going to see guitars this time. I don't even have any animals. Why did I see that Bollywood animal thing? I don't even have animals. All right, give me a second. We are way behind. Top DeSantis PAC official sounds alarm. Steve Cortez got pretty blunt during Twitter Spaces session on Sunday night. This doesn't give me any pleasure to say. It really doesn't. The top spokesperson for Ron DeSantis' super PAC is sounding a decidedly dour note on the Florida governor's presidential prospects, saying his campaign is facing a, quote, uphill battle and is trailing badly in the key nominating states. Steve Cortez, who previously supported Donald Trump, also heaped praise on the former president, calling him a runaway frontrunner and maestro of the debate. I don't know, about a month or so ago, when I told you on Inside the Numbers that I already started to get the phone calls, one I suspect was probably running back to Steve with the answers to those questions. And I said, and I quote, that you will probably have to bend over and get the word Trump branded on your ass before you're forgiven for this one. Right now, in national polling, we are way behind. I'll be the first to admit that, Cortez said in Twitter Spaces event that was recorded on Sunday night. I believe in being blunt and honest. And, that's Steve's bluntness is a virtue of it. It's an uphill battle, but clearly Donald Trump is the runaway front runner. I want to be fair to Steve here. I'm not sure he understands maybe he does understand what he's saying. When you're saying a runaway front runner, it means you cannot catch him. All right. It's not like we're the underdog, because then he goes in and say we're the clear underdog. when you're up against a runaway front runner, you're not an underdog. You're an insignificant dog. You're a nothing dog. Nobody cares about that dog. They kick that dog on the way to the show dog. Get out of here, mutt. Get out of here, mutt. Calling DeSantis campaign the clear underdog, he added. In the first 4 states, which matter tremendously, polls are a lot tighter. We are still clearly down. We're down double digits. We have work to do. That's going off the backs of their own polling, which you have seen is nowhere near the consensus of polls. You have everyone else showing a very clear state of the race, and then you have people, I am seriously growing concerned of whether or not they eat shrooms in their spare time, like Marquette and others who, and by the way, the only other ones are their polls that are just showing something that's totally different. Folks, I cannot manipulate the numbers to come up with the result like you see in their polls and in Marquette. You've seen the raw data as it comes in. You see what it's like when I weighed it after. It's not like we're putting thumbs on scales here. You know that. They're doing something. Like somebody's got to be deleting responses they don't like or something. It's the only way. I was talking to another university pollster about this last week, and he's like, there's just no way. They're throwing away responses. They're throwing away interviews they don't like. It's the only way you get there. The remarks amounted to a remarkably blunt admission of vulnerability from within the ranks of a leading presidential operation, contrasting with the projection of confidence that other DeSantis aides often adopt. Cortez did say he thought the gap between Trump and DeSantis could be closed once DeSantis' personal and political story is shared more widely on the campaign trail. Oh, God, Steve. This is ultimately a point of contention that we had. I told him he is not a likable dude, and he admitted that and knew that. And said his excuse was that he was so smart. Maybe he's on the the spectrum or something. I don't know, something like that. But he's so smart that sometimes people can't get him. Well, that's not what successful presidential contenders are made out of. That's not the stuff they're made out of, folks. They're made out of relatability. They're made out of being articulate. He is not articulate. He's wonky, but not in a great way. And then he comes across very arrogant. And that's why at first I didn't really get the Ron DeSanctimonious name, but you got to give credit where credit's due when Trump knows how to brand somebody. That's a cool ass Paul Reed Smith. You see that? Or is that an Ibanez? That's really cool. That's what, Van Halen or something? But damn, that's pretty. You know me. I like my shiny. Mine's a gold top. I like the gold top. Anyway, but he also rationalized the DeSantis primary campaign failure by predicting healthy competition could benefit Trump in a general election. That's not true. We went over this in great detail together. We went over the history. That's why incumbent presidents do everything in their power to stop contentious primaries. Because in fact, that is a load of horse shit. That is not true. Contentious primaries lead to losing campaigns. Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Herbert Walker Bush. If we do not prevail, and I have every intent on winning, I didn't sign up for this to come in second. But if we do not prevail, I will tell you this: we will make President Trump better for having this kind of primary. That's not true. It's simply not true. You know what really is true? The party wastes millions and millions and millions of dollars attacking their frontrunner, giving the opposition points of weakness to test. While their opposing team is ripping each other apart, they're testing what works in the field with actual persuadable voters. What attacks are working to keep people home? What inspires? And by the time it gets to general election time, which, by the way, the incumbent already has an advantage in, because you can't actually start raising general election funds or spending general election funds until you dispatch your primary opponents and clinch the nomination. That's what happened to John Kerry and George W. Bush. Karl Rove, you got to give him credit where it's due, raced by April to define John Kerry as a liberal elitist from the Northeast who probably killed a lot of women and children in Vietnam. That was what he painted him as. And then came home and smeared America about the war in Vietnam. And he got to do that because John Kerry legally couldn't respond. And then the big donor class, David is 100% right, will cry being poor. I spent $500 million in the primary. I'm not getting it back. There's no ROI for that. So sorry, I can't give you another $500 million to build a ground game and a data operation and a real-time monitoring system to know where the ballots are that we need to get. Sorry. That is a cute little thing that consultants like to say on Fox News because it rationalizes, justifies their existence, which is otherwise harmful to the party. This is not 2016 where we got a bunch of candidates from 15 to 30% and a clear front runner with like a 10-point lead. This is a former president who's still widely liked, 80+% favorability rating in his own party. Anywhere between 55 to 60% of the vote poll, depending, with a ceiling upwards of 80 to 85%, according to the CBS News poll. And everybody else struggling to even get a national level of support that qualifies you for a delegate. Which, by the way, is another story. Like I said, in California, I want to make sure everybody understands what's going on there. Never Back Down PAC did not immediately respond to a comment request, obviously. The commentary by Cortez came in a conversation with the crypto lawyers, an anonymous Twitter account popular with conservatives. In a statement, DeSantis' campaign spokesman Brian Griffin said, Ron DeSantis has been underestimated in every race he has won, and this time will be no different. I've heard this from the team DeSantis before. Here's the problem with that analysis. And I read you an article about 2 months ago saying this very same thing. He was underestimated against Adam Putnam. He was underestimated against Andrew Gillum. He's been always underestimated, and he wins every time. Okay. First and foremost, he was trailing Adam Putnam by a lot. And he's trailing Donald Trump by even more right now. The difference is he didn't do anything to close that gap and completely turn that race around. Net 45, 50 point swing, 40 to 50 point swing, depending on what poll. Donald Trump did. He didn't do that on his own. That's the honest, cold, hard truth. He was going to lose without Donald Trump. He had no chance of beating Agricultural Commissioner Adam Putnam. No chance. He needed the Trump endorsement and he got it. And then he went on to be the Republican gubernatorial nominee and was going to lose to Andrew Gillum until Donald Trump at the last minute came to the state, I think it was 3 or 4 times, and put him over the top. And it wasn't for him. He got over the top, never getting a majority, by the way. He got over the top because Republican voters in Florida knew that Rick Scott had to beat Bill Nelson in the Senate because it was very likely Democrats were going to take the House and they needed a vote not to convict an impeachment. That was the conversation in Florida in 2018. Governor's race was secondary. It was important, but it was secondary. The contribution he made to that campaign was within a week of winning that nomination, going on Neil Cavuto and running against a black man using the phrase, we can't elect Andrew Gillum so he could come in and monkey everything up. Holy shit. If it wasn't for Trump, Andrew Gillum would be the governor of Florida. Think about that. So this comparison I hear Griffin and others making is just totally wrong. It would be right if Ron DeSantis could lay claim to his own wins like Rick Scott can. Rick Scott constantly underestimated, negative until Irma, negative image. And yet he would still pull through. Rick Scott did that on his own. Yeah, he had help from Trump too, though, in 18. There's no doubt. I mean, again, the clear question was, will Bill Nelson be a vote to convict? Nobody, by the time that election came around, this idea that Bill Nelson was a moderate, that mask had been pulled off. That was a load of crap. Everyone knew that he was nothing but a puppet for Schumer and Pelosi in the Democratic Party, and he was going to vote to convict. So, of course, it helped Rick Scott that was the environment. But Rick Scott made his own bones beating Alex Sink. He made his bones beating Charlie Crist. He made his bones beating Bill Nelson. That is not the case with Ron DeSantis, who then went on to win a landslide in 2022. That's absolutely true. Running against the most unpopular politician in the state. A turncoat nobody likes. Republicans can't stand him because he's a betrayer. And Democrats don't trust him because he's a betrayer. It's like you never fully accept the turncoat who comes to your side. There's always going to be that thing in the back of your mind that says, if he was willing to screw over his own people, why should we ever trust him fully? And oh, by the way, it didn't hurt that there were tons of newly naturalized Cubans and Venezuelans thanks to Donald Trump's policy, that he only got to benefit from an additional 70,000 in the Miami-Dade area by the time he was up for re-election, when there was upwards of 200,000 that was actually going to be able to qualify by the next election. So he did not even get to benefit fully. So, where are we? Donald Trump has to explain to Republican voters why he didn't do the things he is now promising in his first term as president. Governor Ron DeSantis over-delivered on his promises as governor and has the national vision we need to restore our country. This is all a lot of hoops, a lot of talk and talk. We just went over 3 weeks ago, ladies and gentlemen, Ron DeSantis' campaign and the candidate himself were bashing Trump's Supreme Court picks. They were bashing the Trump court. There was a week like this last week, and now they release comments like this. When in truth, the Disney stuff, the book bans, what else? On and on. The chemical castration stuff, all of it ran into liberal judges who decimated it. They didn't really deliver that, did they? There's no article from the Heritage Foundation written about Ron DeSantis that says, in one term, so-and-so did more than Ronald Reagan did for conservatism in 2 terms. This campaign is a marathon, not a sprint. We will be victorious. Listen, lead our great American comeback. Clean out DC. Drain this. I mean, nothing here is original. Restore our country. That sounds like make America great again, rhetoric from 16. Clean out DC. You mean drain the swamp? And lead our great American comeback. That was literally the title of Donald Trump's first 100-day agenda. Great American comeback. I remember I was there. CEO of Dow Chemicals, a bunch of manufacturing leaders. It was called the Great American Comeback. Maybe originality would go a long way in this campaign. Cortez endorsed DeSantis for president in May after working on the Trump campaign in 16 and 20. I'm not going to get into privy conversation, but I will just tell you that this is not like there's more to it. He joined Never Back Down as an advisor and spokesperson in that same month. On the Twitter Spaces discussion, Cortez called DeSantis the next natural evolution of the America First movement and said he does not believe Trump is the most conservative, patriotic, populist candidate who can win the general election. I am of the belief that since 2020, he has not gained any voters, but he has shed quite a few, Cortez said of Trump. And look, we went over this together. We did. I mean, the bottom line is, it's just not my polling. All of these people, now Morning Consult has even joined us. My God, Morning Consult was always far more liberal than our polling and others. Emerson, Harvard, us, Rasmussen, ABC News, CBS News, The Economist, their YouGov data set, Yahoo News' YouGov data set. I mean, I can't even count. Even friggin' crappy Marquette poll. None of them ever had Trump, none of us ever had Trump winning the national popular vote, let alone it was always going to, oh, and by the way, that includes Trump's own pollster, John McLaughlin, who wrote an article in Newsmax that's certainly worth reading. Even in 2020 and 16, all the polls he did for Trump, they never had him ahead in 20. They never had him ahead in the popular vote. Never. It was always a matter of a close electoral college, and that that you could peel it off, even losing the popular vote between upwards. It was always believed upwards of about 4 points. You could lose by about 4.1, 4.2, excuse me, and still win the electoral college under certain circumstances as a Republican. That turned out to be 100% true, but never did anyone who now has Trump leading ever have him winning the popular vote. So, I mean, we can just keep going with all these, like, you want to keep repeating something and hope it becomes true because you repeat it over and over again. That's fine. But the fact is, that's just not true. And listen, I'll just tell you this. I know he knows that. In national polls, Trump has maintained a consistent double-digit lead over his 2024 rivals, none of whom have managed to capture the same kind of draw or enthusiasm as the former president. His grip on the Republican electorate has strengthened in the aftermath of two indictments, one for his alleged hush money payment to a pornographic actress. I mean, this is unbelievable how they word this shit. The other for allegedly mishandling classified documents. And although DeSantis is seen as Trump's biggest threat, the Florida governor has been trailing Trump in national and state polling, with the exception of a recent state poll in Wisconsin that showed the two virtually tied. Next month, the 2024 Republican field will have the opportunity to square off in a debate hosted by the Republican National Committee and moderated by Fox News. Actually, that's not really true. We don't even know if that debate's going to happen. All right, which we need to talk about. By the way, the Wisconsin straw poll, which is a party-conducted poll, Trump won overwhelmingly last week. In case you guys didn't see that, that was a little bit surprising to me, especially the margin, because Trump was above a majority. He was at like 53, I believe. DeSantis was only at like 20. That was a state Ted Cruz had won in 2016 against Donald Trump. So I'm a little bit surprised, but it's very possible. What we know, if a traditional Republican primary electorate is no longer what it used to be in 2016. And we saw that with Tim Michaels beating the former lieutenant governor, Rebecca Clayfish, who actually absolutely should be the governor of that state right now, but she chose to go down the Mike Pence road. She chose to go down the Ron DeSantis road. That's the tragedy for her. I just don't see a comeback there. Of course, Cortez said that it would be a great disservice if Trump didn't debate, but also suggested that DeSantis might benefit from his absence. Is Ron the debater that Trump is? He said, no, he isn't. Absolutely, Donald Trump is the maestro of the right, no doubt about it, right? When he gets on the debate stage, and on his feet in front of a microphone, he debates like Jack Nicklaus played golf. There's no doubt about it, Cortez said. At least he's being honest there. I have said that I think actually voters like to see debates. I don't like the debate format. It should be abolished and changed and turned into what I spoke of before, a more open format for voters, where they get to decide who gets more time and who gets answers and questions, blah, 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 blah. I don't like it. But I don't like it when people dip on debates, although I understand where the Trump campaign is coming from. When you're the head, you're the front runner, nobody would ever be, if this wasn't Donald Trump, nobody would ever be saying anything bad about that candidate's decision not to debate. Nobody debates somebody who's way down, like DeSantis is way down. You're just trying to get a zinger. You're trying to get a moment. I actually think they better be careful what they wish for. DeSantis is not a good debater at all. He was thrashed by Andrew Gillum. And even he had a horrible time dealing with Charlie Crist, who had cornered him and said, why can't you just promise to the people of Florida that you're going to serve your term? You're not running for president. Why can't you just tell them you're not using Florida as a jump-off state? And he started doing the bobblehead thing, and it was really uncomfortable. I actually think that if Trump does debate, when DeSantis is saying, because it's funny, Steve says that he thinks Trump owes it would do a great disservice. Well, DeSantis is claiming that he's not going to debate if Trump doesn't debate. So are you doing disservice to the people too? Or is that only apply to Donald Trump? I mean, you need a win. That's, of course, why you want the front runner to the debate. I think it's not going to go well for the non-Trump candidates. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not just what Steve said. There's more to it. Murdochs are all in on Ron DeSantis. By the way, did you see his new net worth? Robert Barnes was on 100% correct. Ron DeSantis was worth about $300,000 before he gave it up to Murdoch, and now he's worth millions. So it is a money laundering scam, those cable book deals, cable news book deals. Robert was totally right about that. So even if Ron DeSantis commits career suicide, which he appears to be doing, he's still got millions now in the bank, even though nobody really read his book. So it is the scam that big money people keep using to push people on you. And I think that's something else. Barnes been talking about that for years. And I think that's something else that we really need to talk about in more depth, more detail. But the bottom line is they're going to do what they did last time, folks. They're going to try to run with the assist. It's not going to be going well. Trump is going to be batting him around the debate stage like a Keebler elf. It's going to be brutal. We're all going to be sitting there with our popcorn, just laughing hysterically and saying, God, remember how boring politics was before Donald Trump came along? And that's one thing about it. The man's entertaining. Politics sucks. Debates are boring. Unless Donald Trump's in one, then they're hilarious. And we're just going to be watching it. And the moderator, Fox News, is going to repeatedly jump in and try to offer Ron an assist. And it's going to do what it happened in 16. It's going to have the effect that happened in 16. It had in 16. Everyone's going to be able to see it for what it is. Here we go again. Big media wants their donor candidate to win. So they're doing everything in their power to make it an unfair debate. Trump's going to know it. He's going to see it. He's going to, even more importantly, because of his instincts, he's going to know you all see it. And then he's just going to railroad everybody like he does. That's what he does. Like, this is a sham. No, I won't respect your rules because this is a sham. So I'm just going to abuse you for 2 hours until you cut to a commercial break. So I don't think it's a great idea for them to debate Trump at all. I don't know what you could do at this point. You made all the wrong decisions. I personally can't believe how difficult it appears it is for so many of these so-called smart people with their super talent politicians to not see how you effectively run against this man. Instead, they all do the same dumb shit. And they lose. And they think they're smart while they're doing it. It's really astonishing. In addition to providing some of the most candid observations about the race from within the DeSantis camp, Cortez talked about some personal attacks and backlash he faced for choosing to endorse the Florida governor over Trump. I was honored to work for Trump, he said, but he added, I believe we can be reasonable about where he fell short and what the path is moving forward. If you are a Steve Cortez or a Pedro Gonzalez, and you are seriously arguing that you could lose more by opposing Donald Trump than supporting him, then you are either being intentionally dishonest or you haven't been in this game long enough and you just don't know, and maybe I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But anyone who argues in all seriousness that it doesn't pay to betray when you're betraying Donald Trump is lying to you. It pays to betray when you betray Donald Trump. Literally. If Steve stayed a Trump supporter, he would not be getting the fat check from a PAC right now that he's getting from Never Back Down. Let's get real. And by the way, nobody made you right, and this is not Steve, so I don't want people to misunderstand. Steve is not a bigot or an anti-Semite. I have never heard Steve Cortez ever make comments like I've seen come out of some of these other people. That's why I'm actually a little bit stunned how he could throw his hat in with a lot of some of these people. Nobody made you write anti-Semitic and racist remarks in your emails and your messages. If you're saying you heard worse from other Trump supporters who are leaking this now, then why haven't you leaked them? Why haven't you leaked the other side of those messages? Do you think those people who were texting him back and forth would have given messages to Breitbart if on the other end of those messages they were also writing horrible anti-Semitic stuff and racist stuff? Of course not. I've told you this before. There are several in that crew. I got messages, I got DMs, I got up the wazoo all through the Trump administration. Why does Trump create jobs for black and brown people? Where's the white jobs? Routinely. Hello, this country was built by white people. White people voted for him. Not, it's such a good development that Hispanics and blacks have the lowest unemployment rate in their history. Maybe we'll bring them into our tent. This is such a great opportunity to reach out to them. No, nothing like that. Asians are destroying this country. Why is their participation rate so much higher? How come they get all the good paying jobs? You see, Hispanics started the most businesses last year. What the hell is that? Where are the white businesses? Telling you, I'm not a tech stumper, but they have no shame. And you better watch out. I got tons of that crap. Meanwhile, I'm married to a Hispanic woman, which most of them know. They know that. My kids are half Hispanic. You think I want to read that shit? The truth is, you weren't a racist and an anti-Semite when you supported Donald Trump and now supposedly had some kind of revelation. Barnes warned you all about this Nick Fuentes element. It's real. They don't get a meeting when they want a meeting. They don't get a job that pays high enough. They don't get enough recognition or sell enough books. That's when they change their support. It has nothing to do with principle, character growth, or recognizing shortcomings. Sadly, the real situation is just so much less admirable. It's so much darker than how they try to make it out to be. Adam, I'll tell him that. If you send me your Twitter account, I'll tell him that. He might have misconstrued that. If you send that to me, I'll send it to him. I'll get him to unblock you. He's a little bit difficult to get a hold of. We were going to do What Are the Odds today, but we're going to do it next week to make up for this one because he had July 4th holiday. We all did. I wanted to do a short or something. But we are going to make up the next this episode that was supposed to be today. We're going to make that up next week. All right. It's real hard when he's traveling and stuff like that. Is Biden getting pushed out of the DNC for Newsom? We're going to find out real soon because they're going to be running out of time. There's no doubt that the media did not all of a sudden, guys, pretend like they're journalists again or rediscover their journalistic ethics. They know that this is getting bad now, that the American people see this for what it is and that Donald Trump really is going to beat Joe Biden. They know that. They see it. Even if he's indicted 100 times, that he's going to win. So, they're panicking and they're flipping out and they see a repeat of the handwriting on the wall. They've been unable. Another thing, by the way, in that John McLaughlin article in Newsweek was really important for people to understand the impact that it does in fact have on people's awareness of these stories. For instance, let me just give you a real quick stat. If you knew about the allegations that Biden took, if you knew about the allegations that Biden took money, basically bribe, okay, then the margin is, hold on, I'm waiting for it to load up. I thought it was on that first cover page. It's not. That's the overalls, 4944. But if you know that there we go. Trump indictment, 55% of all voters were aware that Durham issued a report stating the Justice Department did not have evidence to, open that investigation against Trump. But it's simple. Among 55% said they were aware that Biden took money from the Chinese. And among those 55%, Trump leads 61-33. Among the 45 who did not hear about what the House uncovered, Biden leads 52-33. That's a 47-point shift and swing. They're starting to realize that number is rising, and they're not having a great way to. They don't have a great way to stop it. Is my point. And there's a long time to go. It's not like 2020 when the Tony Bobulinski was going on Tucker at the last minute, and it could have blown up like Hillary's emails could have blown up. So I think that they are at this point trying to explore alternatives. There's no doubt. Here's the problem, though, Jackson. There are rules, and they can get the party to change those rules. But the White House, the president, and the people who are, support the president, they have enormous power over the party apparatus. The president becomes the de facto leader of the national party, and they have a lot of ways to punish you for getting out of line. They can hurt you really bad. So it's tough. They're running out of time. All right. They are running out of time. Life of Brian. Rich, why not bait and switch? Take Democrats' money and then go off to harvest for Republicans. Explain that a little bit more. What would you tell them, Brian, to get them to give you that money? I'm just curious. I hear what you're saying. I'm just develop that a little bit. Like, what would you tell your political opposition to get them to, like, with someone like me? They're never going to give me any money because they know I'm going to be, you know what I mean? They know that I'm going to screw them, so they wouldn't. So I don't know, I just don't know. I do see what you're saying, but if you're saying like big donors and stuff, why not take their money? You can't really do that. There's this like thing out there. I even heard my buddy Steve say it. Like, just because he's taking the money from these people rich doesn't mean he's going to listen to them. Yes, it does. That's how the game works. Nobody takes, believe me, Ken Griffin is not giving $250,000, $500,000 to a guy he's not going to be able to pick up the phone call when he's, when he needs him or wants him for. These are the same people. Ken Griffin, I might remind you guys. He was the one who said, I'll never donate to Trump or other Republicans again because of this so-called Muslim ban. Trump didn't need their money, so he was going off on like this baby tangent. Bigelow is definitely going to pick up the phone and say, I want these contracts. You will spend more money on the defense budget so I can get a return on my investment for putting you in the White House. And guess what? DeSantis will propose to increase the defense budget to pay back Bigelow. That is going to happen. That's the way it works. Richard Nixon pissed off his donors with the EPA. Not only did they screw him, but they got his own party to abandon him when he needed them and he was removed from office. The EPA was one of them, but there were a couple of things. Détente. They were really pissed over détente, and they were pissed over the EPA. And he lost his protection, and he was removed. There was another president in modern time who didn't listen to people that, even his own family told him were important. You didn't want to upset. And he ended up with his brains blown all over his wife's lap. It's the way it goes. The idea, the sheer naivety of somebody believing that Ron DeSantis, or anyone, it's not just DeSantis, anyone who not named Trump, because he doesn't need their money. They gave money to him in 2020, and then even later in 2016, some of them gave money, but he didn't need to pick up the phone and ask them for it. They would call and offer it. Oh, I see, Brian. Hold on. Okay. And you didn't need to give another $5, but I appreciate that, Brian. But just pretend to be a clueless normie who needs $40 and pretend I'm harvesting for Democrats and just spend the time harvesting for Republicans. You absolutely could do that. Absolutely can. And I will find some groups that intend to do that. I guarantee they'll be the same people if they're not named under the same organizations. Let's say they just turnkey, start another PAC and do what they did in 2022. There will be the same people, so it won't be hard for me to find. And, nobody saw it before the election in 2022. It took some time to go back and really look this stuff up. Great article in Real Clear Politics about it. It's probably 6,000 words, but it's worth every moment of your reading time. Why? Because it's like, Trump cost us the 2022 election. It's so stupid. It's so intellectually feeble It's not anywhere remotely close to scratching at the surface of why Republicans underperformed. And that's pretty pathetic because, the blame game doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't improve your standing. You should do. I mean, Brian, everybody should do that. That's a great friggin' idea. Honestly, great idea. Especially if some of you are independents and they don't know. They don't know that you may, in fact, go off and do something like that. One woman, I think I told you the story, but one woman on one of the Zoom training sessions with these, it was a progressive group that were paying people to go out and harvest. That woman was like, hey, I'm almost done with my area. Can I either get another area or start harvesting Republican ballots so I can make 500 this week again? And they were like, no, don't do Republicans. We'll get you some extra work to do. We don't want Republican ballots. No, don't do that. And I suppose they would catch you because you wouldn't be hitting your mark, or you could just lie and check off that you did it, but they could see whether or not someone requested an absentee ballot and then returned it. So eventually you're going to get caught if you do it like that. But there's nothing stopping that woman from harvesting ballots and just not telling them. All she cared about was getting her $500 to help with inflation at the end of the week. So yeah, you could do it like Brian. I guess you could. You just have to look at how they're intending to do stuff, and then you'd have to look at how they're intending to do stuff, and then figure out a way that you could trick them. Be pretty interesting. But yeah, I suppose you could. You talking about Rand Paul for a VP? Would be a better choice to counter the authoritarian smears against Trump. Also, I would put like this. Trump's going to have to pick somebody who is just as much of a threat to the deep state as he is. Like, they have to be just as scared of him. Why? Insurance, man. Insurance. If you're not worried about Donald Trump's safety, especially by the time he gets, let's say he goes on, he clinches the nomination, they try like hell to fudge rules so they can prevent him, like removing winner-take-all rules in California on September 29th, things like that. Let's say that doesn't work. He clinches it. He becomes, and he's head in the polls like he is now. If you don't think there's a possibility he ends up like RFK or JFK, I mean, then you're misunderstanding the dangerous period we're living in. It's absolutely a possibility. We're about out of time, but I did want to talk too about France. I wanted to get everyone's take on what they thought was going on in France. And so somebody on Twitter said, France is your future in 8 years. And I said, maybe less, because that is a society that did not deal with the grievances of their population. They were the West's iconic example of multiculturalism and the mosaic instead of the melting pot. And France is going to hell. And France appears to be possibly on the verge of like collapsing, society collapsing. This is serious. At first, I've seen the French put up some big protests in the past. So I wanted to take my time and kind of wait until events developed. But this is bad. What's going on in France now is really bad. And somebody had said, this really comes down to France allowing a population in their country to basically terrorize their native citizens, and they're not even native, but they're French men and women, people who assimilated and identified. And I don't know if that's 100% the entire truth. I know that it plays a big part in it, but France is in real trouble, folks, and that is really, really sad. So it's not. It's a place everybody wants to go and visit. If you're a fan of Western civilization, if you're a romantic at heart, maybe want somewhere special to take your wife on your 10, 20-year anniversary or something, relight the match. France is a great, great place for that. I'd never want to live in France. Italy, if I'm going to deal with socialism, I might as well have good food. Italy's different. Love Italy. But this is where it's at. And I think that sadly, the EU, the entire experiment of the West in the post-World War II era was never going to work. It was always going it's going to collapse eventually. I just didn't think we'd see it that quickly in our lifetime. But again, also I'm not saying they rigged elections, but they did make it so I thought you were talking to me. They did make it so these people really didn't ever have quality choices, and if somebody like a Marine Le Pen was rising as an alternative, and then they would play these games and painter and do these social desirability things. They work on every population trying to win an election, even have foreign interference in the elections, which we've been doing in France, Israel, and now, by the way, even Brazil. We interfered. And so did the Chinese. We did so on behalf of Lula. I mean, it's unbelievable. If that is the way a society continues, and then there's like no release valve for the pressure, folks, for the stress, for the heat that's building up below the surface in society. If you never give the population a release valve that just keeps building up pressure and pressure and pressure until finally, bam, it explodes. It's sad. I think it's sad. I really do. All right, listen, like I said, next Monday we'll do What Are the Odds, Barnes and I, to make up for this one. We'll be back on Wednesday. Family has to go. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. I hope everyone has a safe and wonderful Independence Day. I, unfortunately, am not doing my annual fireworks show. My daughter's got a thing, for her competition, and they'll be leaving like early on the 5th. I'm staying though, so I can work and do the shows. I would like to go, but it's like I'll watch her on the stream anyway. It's not like a whole lot I can do there. It would just be great to be with the fam, but I can't be gone that long. 4 days, that's too long. I'll be buried in work. Even if I miss all the streams I'm supposed to do, I'd be buried in work. I'll be buried in crosstabs that I got to get done. It looks like we're getting ready to start up this other poll. We've been doing a lot. We've raised almost half now of that public polling project. Don't forget, the links are always in the description. Share the public polling project far and wide. Give whatever you can give to it. We're almost there getting that one fully funded, even though it's not totally full. But I'd do it if we make it to that. And I'll do a national, and we'll do overrepresentation in one of the early states, so we can do it all at once and have a great example, or have a great sample, for one early state plus the national, and we can keep the national trend up. All right. So public polling project is bigdatapoll.com/, links in the description. I got to make a short one so it's easy for you guys to click on. But until I do, links there, follow it, give what you can, and share it, with like-minded people far and wide. What else am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something here. I did extend the local sting for a couple of days. Don't forget, it's July. I did it for the holiday. Grandfather yourself in on locals right now, because for the rate increase is not going to increase a whole hell of a lot. Listen, every dollar counts. A dollar saved is a dollar earned, right? So, sign up if you're a member and you want to become a supporter. Now's the time to do it. If you're on YouTube and you want to move over to locals, or you just want to do both, now's the time to do it. And YouTube in the community note section, community comment section, there's a code in there for a month off. All right. That's for you if you are a YouTube member already, like a paying member, and that'll take care of that month that you just paid. This way you're like not double paying. All right. What else? I think that's about it. I think that is just about it. If I remember anything, keep an eye on the locals feed. All right. We'll do an update. Let's see real quick before I let you go where we're at now. We had 1,436 before that last update. Let's see where we are now. It's updating again. 1,502. Let's take a real quick look. Let's do an update. 1,500. We just passed the 1,500 mark. And by the way, you can take that link and share it far and wide too if you know people who are interested. All right. 1,502 total now. And Twitter is 47.7. Locals continues to be a solid number 2 at 22. 14.6 for Getter. 11.8 for Truth. 2% for YouTube. 1.5 for Rumble. 0.4 for Facebook. Iowa's still dominating in the lead. It's come down some, but it's up 23.6. Nevada 13.6. Florida 11.1. I think it's probably pretty obvious that after Iowa, we're going to have to decide whether we're going to continue just to poll Iowa and get a trend for Iowa, or if we're going to do Nevada and Florida. I got to tell you, because we already did Florida, and I think it's an important state to poll. Iowa, we're going to have to go over in a little bit of detail. If you remember, there are no exit polls in Iowa. There are only entrance polls because you can advocate for your candidate. And you have your precinct captain. They will caucus for the candidate. It's going to be, the results are going to be a little bit different. Not a little bit. It's going to be a lot different. We will do initial preference. Who do you intend to caucus for? All right. Or who do you intend to cast your caucus vote for? But then we're going to say first choice, second choice. We are. Because we're going to ask people, are you decided which one applies to you? I am decided and I am not changing my vote. I am decided, but I could be persuaded to change my mind. Things like that. Why? Because that's how caucuses work. And we need to get a grip on who has what level of potential support. All right. And then who's got such a strong floor or a higher ceiling. That's all that, really matters when it comes to that. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of first time caucus goers. If we look back to the 2006 Iowa caucuses, let's do entrance polls. And let me just take a peek. I think we're going to have a lot more this time. I really do. Entrance post result. That's the Washington Post. The hell with that. Look for NBC or CBS. Here we go. Okay. They always do Democrats first. All right. So Trump won 65 and older, which was 29% of the vote. He tied with Rubio among people who were 45 to 64, and Cruz won 30 to 44. Yeah, in truth, the exit polls don't really make sense how Cruz won. I mean, you can't lose the three biggest voting groups and win. It doesn't make sense. Okay. That's pretty simple. What I was looking for was first-time caucus goers. Let's see. Did they do this? Born again evangelical. Cruz won them 34 to 22. Now Trump is carrying them pretty significantly. And no, they were 64% of all caucus goers, evangelical Christians, born again or evangelical. No was 36%, and Trump won them 29 to 26. I'm looking to see, did they ask if they were first-time caucus goers? Let's see. Only 2% were Hispanic in Republicans. That's it. It was 52% male, 48% female. That's about right. That's what we're getting right about now. It is a little bit more educated in a caucus. I know that sounds funny, but it's balanced out pretty significantly by how many have some college or high school degree. That's going to be about half the electorate. More than a high school graduate is 16% don't even have a high school degree. Education by race, or it did last time. We'll see where it comes in now. This is my first caucus, was 45%, and Trump won them by 7. 54% was I've attended a caucus before, and Cruz won them by 8. All right, so we could see some massive first-time caucus numbers. Massive. If we got this in 16, there's most definitely been some newer Trump voters in 2020. You could see it from the turnout numbers, even though it wasn't really not a contested renomination. Trump drove out a lot of new caucus goers in 2020 anyway. So I'm curious to see whether or not we will ask that. Before today, had you ever attended an Iowa caucus? Yeah. And we'll see which way it goes. A couple of really good suggestions in the Edison Research exit polls, actually. We'll mimic them. We'll do, you can be, if I remember correctly, you can be 17 and caucus in Iowa. I have to go check my rule book. I have all these state-specific rules for polling, and Iowa, especially during a caucus, is a fun. It's fun. It is, but it also is a lot more room for error. And all I'm seeing right now are people putting out initial caucus preference, and that could lead to a, let's say Trump's ahead now 52 to 25. That could lead to either Trump getting the vast majority of people who are undecided or for somebody else, and people just saying, oh, what the hell? And he can get like 70%. Or it could lead to him winning a majority and DeSantis getting like 40, because everyone else was a bandit at the caucus. And just when, I don't think that's going to happen, though, because Trump is so popular with Iowa Republicans. I just don't think that could or will happen, at least not now. And that's something has not happened for, things have not gone on that would have led to that. Yep, and that's it. All right. So with that in mind, that's where we are right now. All right. So keep, I'm going to leave it open for like another day or so. Maybe I'll leave it open until Wednesday, and then we'll decide, make it final and have a little finality to it. That's it. It's Iowa. It's done. Or maybe something changes. You could see nobody's really running away with it. Iowa is 23.6, but Nevada is 13.6. They're really only separated by 149 votes. It's not a lot when you're talking about thousands and thousands of votes. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. With that, I think we're going to boogie woogie. Thanks for everybody for watching. Please have a safe, happy Independence Day tomorrow. Okay. Have fun. Enjoy it and celebrate liberty and what is left of it. Celebrate the enormous achievement that was the American Revolution. Even the act of declaring independence was an enormous feat. Maybe reflect a little bit on it as we face these very dark, despotic days ahead. Make sure it's safe. Deuces, everybody. Oh, and I asked Laura the origin of deuces. I couldn't remember. We've been saying that to each other for a long time. We'll keep thinking. It's been so long. Neither one of us could even remember. But I think it'll pop up in somebody's mind soon. It will. And when we remember, we'll let you know. I get that question a lot on locals. But I can't figure it out yet. One day it'll just right in my head. All right, it's 5:07. I'll let you guys go. Shorter streams, right? Here we go again. All right, folks. Again, have a great 4th, a safe Independence Day, and I will see you on Wednesday. All the best. Thanks for watching, okay? Inside the Numbers will return after the holidays. For now, it's just shorter streams of 2+ hours. See you guys.